The unexpected arrival. The fleet arrives. Admiral Corvin stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Stellar Dominance, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his screens. Earth hung in space like a precious jewel, its white clouds swirling over green continents and deep blue oceans. The Admiral had seen countless worlds during his 40 years of military service, but this one looked particularly peaceful. That would change soon enough. Behind him, the bridge crew worked quietly. At their stations, Lieutenant Vex monitored communications while Commander Thane coordinated the battle formation. 300 warships stretched across space in perfect military precision, each vessel bristling with weapons capable of destroying entire cities. The Zephyrian Empire had sent its most powerful fleet to claim this new world for their growing territory. Corvin adjusted his dark blue uniform and checked the tactical displays one final time. Earth's primitive technology posed no real threat to his advanced fleet. Their fastest spacecraft could barely reach their own moon, while his ships had crossed half the galaxy in just 2 months. The humans had nuclear weapons, but their delivery systems were slow and predictable. This would be another easy conquest for the Empire. The Admiral had personally overseen the capture of 63 worlds during his long career. Each time, the pattern remained the same. His fleet would arrive, demand immediate surrender, and when the inhabitants refused, his weapons would reduce their major cities to ash. The survivors always chose service over death. It was efficient, final, and had never failed. Earth's first warning. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in the Global Defense Observatory in Chile, surrounded by dozens of computer monitors displaying data from space telescopes around the world. She had spent the last 12 years scanning the skies for signs of extraterrestrial life, but she never expected to find an entire armada heading directly toward Earth. The objects on her screens were too large and too organized to be natural phenomena. Elena reached for her secure communication device with trembling hands. The protocol was clear but terrifying. If she detected signs of hostile alien spacecraft, she had direct access to the United Nations Security Council and world leaders. She had practiced this moment hundreds of times in simulations, but the reality felt surreal. Her call reached the United Nations Emergency Assembly in New York within minutes. Secretary General Ahmad Hassan listened to her report with growing alarm. The objects approaching Earth were not exploration vessels or research probes. They were massive warships arranged in perfect military formation, each one larger than any human city. President Sarah Chen received the emergency notification while meeting with her cabinet in Washington. She set down her coffee and listened as her aide explained the situation. Alien warships had entered Earth's solar system and were moving toward the planet at incredible speed. The largest ship was positioning itself directly above North America. Sarah had served as president for 3 years, dealing with natural disasters, economic challenges, and international conflicts. Nothing had prepared her for this moment. She excused herself from the cabinet meeting and walked to the situation room, where her top advisors were already gathering around the main conference table. The ultimatum, the Situation Room's primary screen, displayed a live feed from the Hubble Space Telescope. The alien ships looked like dark mountains floating against the starfield. Their hulls reflected starlight like polished obsidian, and strange symbols glowed along their sides in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Weapon ports lined their surfaces like countless eyes, and each ship bristled with technology that could obliterate continents. Defense Secretary Robert Hayes spread intelligence reports across the conference table. Earth's most advanced fighter jets would be like paper airplanes against these vessels. Nuclear missiles might damage them, but the aliens could destroy every major population center before Earth's weapons could even reach their targets. Any direct military response would guarantee humanity's extinction. Admiral Corvin authorized the transmission of his standard ultimatum at exactly noon Earth time. The message broadcast simultaneously on every human communication frequency in over 50 languages. Television programs stopped mid-sentence and radio stations went silent as the alien message overrode every signal on the planet. The voice was deep and emotionless, speaking each language with perfect pronunciation but no warmth. People of Earth, you have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally or face complete annihilation. Prepare your leaders for transport to Zephyrian custody. Prepare your population for relocation and service. Any resistance will result in the total destruction of your species. This message will repeat until your compliance is confirmed. The message played continuously while billions of people around the world stopped their daily activities and tried to comprehend that their lives had just changed forever. In homes and offices, in schools and hospitals, in cities and remote villages, humans heard the same words and realized their world might end in 3 days. An impossible decision. President Chen stood in the Situation Room, feeling the weight of every human life pressing down on her shoulders. Around the table, her advisors waited for orders that could save Earth or doom it. Secretary Hayes argued for immediate military mobilization, while CIA Director Patricia Collins discussed evacuation protocols for key personnel. The president listened to each report, but something felt fundamentally wrong about all their conventional responses. Every option involved either fighting or hiding, and both approaches assumed the aliens were enemies who could never be reasoned with. Sarah had built her political career on the belief that most conflicts could be resolved through dialogue and understanding. Deep in her mind, an idea began forming that none of her advisors had suggested. Instead of meeting the aliens with weapons or surrender, what if Earth responded with something completely unexpected? What if they met overwhelming force not with violence, but with the one quality that made humans unique among all known species? What if they responded with kindness? The idea seemed impossible to her advisors. Secretary Hayes argued that the aliens had demonstrated clear, hostile intent with their ultimatum and threats of genocide. Responding with peaceful gestures seemed like national suicide. But Sarah remained firm in her decision. She believed that meeting violence with violence would only guarantee Earth's destruction. Operation Open Arms, the orders went out within hours of the president's announcement. Sarah called it Operation Open Arms, and it would be the largest humanitarian mission in human history. Every cargo plane, transport ship, and supply vessel on Earth received new instructions. Military transport aircraft were loaded not with weapons, but with medical supplies, fresh food, and water purification equipment. Cargo ships filled their holds with everything from advanced medicines to musical instruments. Commercial airlines volunteered their fleets for the mission. Even private citizens contributed by preparing care packages containing local foods, handmade gifts, and translated letters of welcome. Captain Marcus Webb had spent 25 years piloting military transport aircraft for the United States Air Force. He had delivered supplies to disaster zones, war zones, and humanitarian crises around the world. He had never been asked to fly a supply mission to an alien invasion fleet. His cargo manifest included fresh fruits and vegetables from every continent, medical equipment, books translated into dozens of languages, and thousands of handwritten Letters from schoolchildren worldwide. The letters had started arriving at government offices within hours of the president's announcement. Children from every nation wrote messages of welcome to the aliens. Some drew pictures of humans and aliens working together on peaceful projects. Others offered to share their favorite foods or teach alien children human games. Many simply said they hoped the aliens weren't too tired from their long journey through space. Dr. Sarah Kim worked at MIT as a professor of linguistics and xenanthropology. She had spent her career studying theoretical first contact scenarios, but she never expected to lead humanity's first diplomatic mission to an alien species. The government asked her to head the human delegation that would approach the alien fleet. Sarah spent sleepless hours preparing for the most important conversation in human history. She studied the alien ultimatum for clues about their language, patterns and cultural assumptions. The message was perfectly translated but emotionally cold. It assumed that conquest was natural and resistance was futile. She wondered if the aliens had ever encountered a species that responded to threats with offers of friendship. The approach, the first wave of human ships, launched toward the alien fleet 18 hours after the ultimatum. Captain Webb led 12 cargo aircraft in loose formation as they climbed toward the alien flagship. His radio crackled with transmissions from air traffic control. But the messages were unlike anything he had heard in military communications. Instead of tactical updates and weapons status reports, he heard requests to confirm that he had enough fresh bread for the alien crew, and reminders to distribute the children's letters first. One pilot asked his control tower if the aliens might enjoy chocolate because his grandmother had packed extra cookies. Lieutenant Vex monitored human communications from the alien bridge and reported increasingly strange developments to Admiral Corvin. The approaching human vessels were broadcasting music instead of threats. Their pilots discussed meal plans and medical supplies rather than attack strategies. The humans seemed to be treating the encounter like a dinner party rather than a military engagement. Admiral Corvin had fought battles across 63 star systems. He had faced desperate last stands, clever ambushes, and suicidal counterattacks. He had never faced an enemy that offered to cook dinner for his crew. The situation fell outside every tactical manual and military protocol in the Zephyrian fleet. The human ship stopped just outside weapon range and waited. Captain Webb activated his communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. His message was simple and delivered in the calm voice of someone offering directions to lost travelers. He explained that Earth had prepared supplies for the alien crew and requested permission to approach. He added that the supplies included fresh food because traveling across space must be exhausting, and the aliens probably missed home cooking. Dr. Kim's voice joined the transmission from the lead diplomatic vessel. She spoke slowly and clearly, using simple words that universal translation systems could easily process. She welcomed the aliens to Earth's solar system and acknowledged that they must have traveled far from home. She offered medical assistance, fresh food, and comfortable places to rest. She asked if the aliens would like to talk before making any final decisions about Earth's fate. The offer was so unexpected that Admiral Corvin required several minutes to respond. In his experience, primitive civilizations either cowered in terror or attacked with desperate fury when faced with superior force. They never offered hospitality and requested conversation. He consulted his tactical computers, but found no protocols for handling humanitarian gestures from conquest targets. A galaxy-changing moment commander, Thane reported that the human ships carried no weapons and showed no signs of hostile intent. Their energy signatures matched those of civilian transport vessels, and their communications remained open and friendly. Every scanner confirmed that the humans were genuinely offering aid to the very beings who had threatened to destroy their world. Meanwhile, something remarkable was happening on Earth's surface. Instead of panic and chaos, humans were organizing the largest cultural celebration in history. Times Square filled with musicians playing songs from every nation, while volunteers prepared food for both humans and aliens. London's Trafalgar Square became a massive art exhibition where children drew pictures of friendship between species. News reporter Jennifer Martinez broadcast live from Central Park, where 50,000 people had gathered for an impromptu concert. Musicians played everything from classical symphonies to folk songs, while families shared meals and children played games. The scene looked more like a festival than a response to potential extinction. The celebration spread across every continent. In Rio, dancers performed in the streets, while artists painted murals depicting humans and aliens working together. In Cairo, storytellers shared ancient tales of hospitality to strangers. In Sydney, chefs prepared meals representing every culture on Earth and announced that the aliens were welcome to join the feast. Admiral Corvin received similar reports from his entire fleet. Human cities were not preparing for war or evacuation. They were preparing for the largest welcome party in planetary history. His weapons officers reported no military targets presenting themselves. His intelligence officers found no strategic installations going into defensive mode. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Corvin faced a completely unprecedented situation. The humans were offering friendship to beings who had come as conquerors. They were meeting overwhelming force with overwhelming kindness. As the Admiral watched the peaceful ships waiting patiently outside his weapons range, he realized that everything he thought he knew about conquest and warfare might be about to change forever. Asterisk. When warriors meet peacemakers first, contact Admiral. Corvin made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. He authorized a limited response to the human approach, allowing Captain Webb and Dr. Kim to dock with his flagship under heavy guard. Their ships could carry minimal crew, and only the supplies they had declared. Any sign of weapons or hostile intent would result in immediate destruction. Dr. Kim stepped through the airlock of the alien flagship with her heart racing, but her hands steady. The corridor beyond was larger than any hallway she had ever seen, with walls that seemed to absorb light and floors that felt warm beneath her feet. Strange symbols glowed softly along the ceiling, and the air carried the scent of metal and something floral she couldn't identify. Behind her, Chef Antonio Rodriguez carried containers of fresh bread, still warm from the shuttle's oven. Nurse Patricia Williams wheeled a medical kit, and engineer David Chang held a tablet containing technical gifts and cultural information about humanity. The Zephyrian escorts were tall and slender, with pale grey skin and large dark eyes that reflected light like mirrors. They wore uniforms that combined military precision with ceremonial elegance, and they moved with careful grace while speaking. In low musical voices, the aliens maintained respectful distance from the human delegation, as if unsure whether the visitors were dangerous or simply unusual. Their behavior suggested they had never encountered beings who approached them without fear or aggression. Admiral Corvin waited in a conference room that could have accommodated 500 people. The table appeared to be carved from a single piece of dark crystal that reflected the ceiling lights like still water. The Admiral was older than the other Zephyrians Kim had seen, with intricate markings along his neck and arms that suggested both rank and long service. His uniform carried more symbols than his subordinates, and his bearing showed the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. Breaking ancient protocols, Kim approached with her hands visible and empty, following first contact protocols. That seemed almost absurd given the circumstances. She was supposed to establish peaceful intent with beings who had just threatened to destroy her entire species. When she spoke, her voice carried the warmth of a teacher welcoming new students, rather than the fear of a diplomat facing potential extinction. She thanked Admiral Corvin for allowing the human delegation aboard and expressed Earth's sincere hope that their two species could find common ground. She explained that humans believed most conflicts arose from misunderstanding, and that communication could solve problems that weapons could only make worse. The Admiral listened without interruption, but Kim could see confusion in his large, reflective eyes. He asked direct questions about Earth's military capabilities and strategic resources. He wanted to know why humans had sent food instead of fighters and doctors instead of soldiers. Kim realized that the Zephyrians had no cultural framework for understanding species that responded to threats with offers of friendship. Chef Rodriguez opened his containers, and the aroma of fresh bread filled the conference room. He had baked during the flight using portable equipment, and the loaves still carried the warmth of human kindness. He offered samples to Admiral Corvin and his officers while explaining that food was how humans traditionally showed care for others, especially travelers from distant places. The Zephyrians examined the bread carefully before tasting it, and Kim saw something remarkable happen. Their large eyes widened with surprise, and several officers exchanged glances that suggested they had never experienced anything quite so unexpectedly delicious. The simple act of sharing food had accomplished more than any diplomatic speech could have achieved. Nurse Williams asked permission to examine any crew members who might need medical attention. She explained that traveling such vast distances through space must put tremendous strain on any biological system, and Earth's medical knowledge might be useful even to more advanced species. Her offer was made with the same gentle professionalism she would use with any patient, regardless of their origin. Cultural revelations. Engineer Chang activated his tablet and began sharing information about human civilization, rather than focusing on Earth's military capabilities or strategic resources. He showed the aliens examples of human art, music, literature, and scientific achievement. He played recordings of symphonies and folk songs, displayed paintings and sculptures from every culture, and shared videos of children learning and playing together. Admiral Corvin watched these presentations with growing fascination. His own species had advanced far beyond humanity in terms of technology and military power, but they had apparently lost something along the way. The humans displayed a joy and creativity that the Zephyrians had forgotten during their centuries of expansion and conquest. Lieutenant Vex reported that human communications continued to broadcast music, stories, and messages of welcome rather than military coordination or emergency protocols. Entire cities had transformed themselves into cultural festivals, with millions of people preparing for the largest celebration of interspecies friendship in known history. The Admiral found himself asking questions he had never considered before. He wanted to know why humans created art that served no practical purpose. He was curious about their concept of friendship between strangers. He struggled to understand why they would risk their species' survival to offer kindness to beings who had threatened them with extinction. Dr. Kim explained that humans had learned throughout their history that diversity and cooperation led to stronger communities. She described how different human cultures had enriched each other through trade, intermarriage, and shared knowledge. She suggested that the same principles might work between different species on a galactic scale. The Admiral's Thane entered the conference room with urgent reports from the fleet. Human ships continued arriving with supplies, medical aid, and cultural gifts. The vessels came from every nation on Earth, and their crews broadcast greetings in dozens of languages. More remarkably, other human ships had begun leaving Earth's atmosphere carrying messages and gifts intended for any other alien species that might be listening to galactic communications. Admiral Corvin realized that the humans were not just responding to his fleet's arrival. They were attempting to initiate peaceful contact with any intelligent life that might exist throughout the galaxy. Their response to potential annihilation was to reach out with friendship to the entire universe. The Admiral had spent his entire adult life believing that strength came from dominance and security came from fear. The Zephyrian Empire had built its power by conquering weaker species and forcing them into submission. It had been effective for over 5 centuries, expanding their territory across thousands of star systems. But watching the humans offer genuine kindness to their potential destroyers, Admiral Corvin began questioning everything he had been taught about civilization and progress. These seemingly primitive beings had achieved something the mighty Zephyrian Empire had never accomplished. They had created a society based on cooperation rather than conquest, a galaxy-spanning revelation. Dr. Kim asked if she could share something personal with the Admiral. She told him about her own childhood during a time of conflict between human nations. She had grown up believing that strangers were dangerous and that different cultures threatened her own people's way of life. Only through education and personal experience had she learned that diversity made communities stronger rather than weaker. She suggested that perhaps the Zephyrian Empire's approach to expansion had been based on similar fears. Maybe their ancestors had believed that conquering other species was necessary for survival. But what if cooperation could achieve better results than conquest? Admiral Corvin found himself sharing details about Zephyrian history that he had never discussed with anyone outside his own species. He described how his people had once been explorers and scientists rather than warriors. They had turned to military expansion only after encountering hostile alien species that threatened their homeworld. Centuries of defensive wars had gradually transformed them into the very type of aggressive civilization they had originally feared. Chef Rodriguez prepared a complete meal using ingredients from Earth, while the conversation continued. He explained each dish and its cultural significance, while Admiral Corvin and his officers experienced flavors they had never imagined. The simple act of sharing food became a bridge between 2 entirely different approaches to existence. Engineer Chang connected his tablet to the ship's communication system and played recordings of human music. The melodies ranged from gentle lullabies to powerful symphonies, each piece reflecting different emotions and experiences. Several Zephyrian officers began moving in rhythm with the music, suggesting that appreciation for beauty transcended species boundaries, the choice that changed everything as the hours passed. Admiral Corvin faced the most difficult decision of his career. His orders were clear: conquer Earth or destroy it. The Zephyrian Empire expected him to return with another victory and new resources for their expanding territory. His military training demanded that he viewed the humans' peaceful response as either weakness or deception, but everything he had witnessed during the past days suggested a third possibility. What if the humans were demonstrating a type of strength that the Zephyrian Empire had never understood? What if their willingness to offer friendship to potential enemies represented advanced wisdom rather than primitive naivety? Dr. Kim made one final request. She asked if Admiral Corvin would be willing to visit Earth's surface before making his ultimate decision about humanity's fate. She promised that he would see things that might change his perspective on civilization, progress, and the true meaning of strength. The Admiral agreed, knowing that this decision might end his military career but could potentially save both species from a conflict that would benefit neither. He selected a small escort and prepared to become the first Zephyrian to set foot on the surface of another inhabited world for reasons other than conquest. First, steps on Earth. The shuttle landed in Central Park, where over 200,000 humans had gathered to welcome their first extraterrestrial visitors. The crowd was remarkably diverse, representing every nation, culture, and age group on the planet. Yet despite their differences, they shared a common expression of curiosity, hope, and genuine warmth. Admiral Corvin stepped onto Earth's surface and experienced something he had never felt during 63 previous conquests. Instead of fear, hostility, or desperate submission, he encountered only smiles, applause, and offers of friendship from beings who had every reason to hate him. Children approached with handmade gifts and drawings depicting humans and Zephyrians working together. Musicians played welcome songs, while chefs offered samples of food from every corner of the world. Scientists presented displays of human achievement and expressed eagerness to learn about Zephyrian technology and culture. The Admiral realized that he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. An entire civilization had chosen to respond to potential extinction with celebration, generosity, and hope for peaceful coexistence. They had met his overwhelming military force with overwhelming kindness. A new chapter begins 3 days later. Admiral Corvin sent a message to the Zephyrian High Command that would reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. Rather than reporting a successful conquest, he announced the discovery of humanity and recommended immediate establishment of peaceful diplomatic relations. He described a species that had achieved something the Zephyrian Empire had been seeking for centuries without realizing it. The humans had created a sustainable civilization based on cooperation, creativity, and mutual respect. They offered a model for galactic society that could benefit all intelligent species. The decision sparked intense debate within the Zephyrian government, but Admiral Corvin's detailed reports and the flood of human communications reaching other star systems made denial impossible. Species throughout the galaxy began receiving messages of friendship from Earth, many expressing interest in peaceful contact rather than territorial expansion. Within months, Earth became the center of the first truly cooperative galactic alliance. The Zephyrian Empire gradually transformed from a conquering force into a partner in exploration and cultural exchange. Admiral Corvin retired from military service to become Earth's first Zephyrian ambassador, dedicating his remaining years to building bridges between species. Dr. Kim established the Galactic Institute for Peaceful Contact, which developed protocols for approaching new civilizations with friendship rather than fear. Chef Rodriguez opened the first interspecies restaurant where beings from dozens of worlds could share meals and stories together. The humans had proven that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the courage to trust. They had shown that when faced with overwhelming force, the most effective response might be overwhelming kindness. In a galaxy that had known only conquest and submission, they had introduced a revolutionary concept: the possibility that strangers could become friends. Their smile had changed everything.